Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and today we have a special guest, Nellie Harden. Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Oh, thank you so much. This is incredible. I'm definitely an imperfect mom.
I'm going to say, aren't we all?
Yes. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. So, my name is Nellie Harden. I am a mom of 4 tween and teen girls. So my girls range anywhere from 11 to 16, soon to be 12 to 17. But we decided to group all the birthdays together in a few days because that would be fun, right? And so we have a week coming up next week that has 4 of the 6 of our birthdays in it. So that's always a fun one. But anyway, I homeschool some of them. Some of them go to school, and we've been doing that for a number of years. And we live over on the East Coast of North Carolina with my husband. We've been married for a couple of decades now. So that's personally, and then professionally, I am a family life and leadership coach. And so what I do is reach into families, meet them where they are, and help them write their personal, unique story that they want to have before the end of what I call the 65-70. So in 18 years, there's 6,570 days. And we as parents, being the architects of the beginning of their lives, we're designing and planning and building the beginning of someone else's life. That is our greatest project, is the 65-70. As a mom, this is our greatest project, or as a parent. And so I help people dive in, see what they want to come out of the 65-70, which is amazing because every family is so unique and different, and personalities are different. And, but anyway, I see what they want to accomplish by the end, and we build a roadmap to get to. Okay. We build a roadmap to get there using self-led discipline, and which is a road to self-led leadership, and developing that inner compass in our kids so that they can move forward with a solid foundation to lean on and stand on in their adult life. So that is what I do in a nutshell.
That's super interesting. So one of the things that I talk about on the podcast, and in the opening, it says that we think about who you want your children to become, or how do we raise, self-aware, all this list, right, of humans. Like, how do we facilitate that? How do we create that? And the answer is that we become that ourselves. So is that kind of along the same lines of what you do with your parents?
Absolutely. So I love to work in whole family life and leadership coaching for that exact reason, because as parents, like when you go to school or you go to a university or what have you, those people that you're learning from, they have gone through all the classes, they have graduated, they've maybe taken some more classes after that for continuing ed. They had to be vetted in order to be, a position there to teach you. They know their stuff. Well, as a parent, there's no class that we go through before that baby comes out or is there, and we all of a sudden are a parent. And so we are learning to parent as they are learning to be humans and being adults and being responsible. So it's this wonderful, beautiful, sometimes hectic, most of the time a little crazy dance between learning and growing and teaching that we as parents and them as children do. And so if we do whole family life and leadership coaching, then we are helping everyone grow together. It's like, put in the water, rise all the ships at the same time. And it creates this beautiful array, this, beautiful tapestry of vulnerability and honesty within a family that the parents understand that the kids are not just kids, quote unquote. The kids are young adults and they are people with personalities. And also vice versa, the kids understand mom and dad are not just mom and dad. They aren't just these authoritarian figures in my life that tell me to pick up my laundry and put away the remote or whatever. They're actually people with lives and feelings and experiences too. And when you can bring that together, the leadership and the growth within a family, within that team exponentiates, and so much can happen. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. Like when you're one person trying to influence others, it's a whole, but you have this opposing force. It's a lot more difficult than if you're all on the same page, working together as a team. Yeah. Yes,
absolutely. And so when I work with a family, I love to dive in. I always start with the end in mind. And we're like, what do you want to accomplish? And, with their bag, so to speak, what do you want in their bag, their virtual bag, when they leave home, right? Do you want them taking respect and honesty and work ethic, and what do those things look like for you? How do you define those? What about them? And that's why I love to work with families with kids of all ages, but especially when you get into the middle and high school child range, they can speak for themselves as to what their personality is like. You can start to see their tendencies, their reflexes, their natural instincts, if you will. And you can start to hone in on doing the best for exactly who they are, right? And it's much different when they're super young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting, that a lot of people want to know what the right way to raise a kid is. And ultimately, every kid is different. And so, like, as kids, we're like, my mom treated my brother differently, right? And that's really offensive because we got treated differently. But in reality, we should be treating our children differently because they need different things.
Yes.
And I was on a Facebook group yesterday or the day before, and a mom posted, I know I'm a bad mom, so don't go there in the comments. And it's like, it just hurts.
Oh no.
I hear that. I see that all the time. But she was basically saying, I haven't taken my child to the dentist and he's 4. And, and she was listing all these reasons why she hadn't, because until he was 4. And they all sounded like legitimate reasons. And I said, doesn't sound like you're a bad mom to me. It sounds like you paid attention to your child and your child's needs and your child's behaviors. And instead of creating this innate fear of the dentist because you started at 2, it sounds like you're a good mom to me.
Yeah.
But we don't think of it that way. We think this is the rule and this is how you follow the rules, right? And this is what you have to do for all kids. And this is why there's all this fighting on Facebook between moms, because they're following the rule of what you're supposed to do.
Right. Which that's exactly right. There is, There is a bajillion parenting books out there, but there's not your book. And that is what I love to help people write, because I've been caught in that before. I have 4 daughters and I call them 4 corners of a square. They could not be more different. And so I do have to approach them and parent them and discipline them, both consequence discipline and growth discipline and all of those things. I need to do that differently for all of them. And when they were younger, I was going to the gurus, so to speak, and I was not getting what I needed, because if I tried their thing on all of them, it didn't work inevitably for 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but maybe it did help one of them. And so, yes, our kids are not these chess pieces to be like, move 1 is followed by, I don't know how to play chess, so I'm not even going to pretend, but, move 1 is followed by move 3 or whatever. And it just does not work that way. The only way that it can work is if you get to know your child on an individual basis. And frankly, if you don't get to know your child, who is going to, right? Who is going to do it if you don't? Right. And the answer is either no one, or it's probably not that great of an answer. It's probably someone that you don't necessarily want to know your kid all that well. Yeah. And they can start to be this chameleon. That's one person around somebody and another person around another person. So developing that vulnerability and peace at home where they can be who they truly are, and then go and test that and use that out in the real world, it's priceless.
Yeah. I was like doing that thinking thing, like, oh, is that why I'm a chameleon? Why I was a chameleon for a second?
Yeah, I've been a chameleon before.
Yeah, I remember when I had this realization that I was trying to be your version of perfect Alicia, which means that I had to get to know you to understand what you wanted from me and then become that person. And it was very exhausting. And who wants to, like, there's so much energy.
So much energy. You find yourself wondering, wait, was that who I was supposed to be here? Or was that the other person I was with at 2:00 today? Right. It's right. So exhausting.
Yeah. And I always thought, you said at the beginning that, there's no like classes that you have to take to be a parent. And I really believe that it should be part of college. It should be part of high school, even. Maybe kids don't pay attention in high school enough. Like, we have the sex education, but we're not really like paying attention to life things. But at some point there should be some kind of mandatory something that teaches us how to be parents and how to human effectively, because we're trying to learn how to human ourselves. And then one day, 9 months after we get pregnant, somebody hands us a baby and says, hey, you got to teach this human how to human too. And even though you haven't figured it out yet, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so when you go through an experience together as a family, you can affect generations to come by exactly what you're saying there. So it's so neat to be able to instill these core values of self-led discipline and leadership into their core beliefs and cement them in, so they can lean on them and stand on them in their adulthood, but they also get to grow them. And so I have this wonderful image of all these families that I get to work with, and maybe 20 or 25 years down the line, they're having a holiday celebration and they get to see their grandkids, maybe down the line, even great grandkids. And they are watching their children or grandchildren teach those kids the leadership skills, these timeless tactics that I call that they're alien proof, right? If an alien bounces in your backyard tomorrow, you're still going to be okay because you have these within you. It doesn't depend on anything that is happening today, right? There's a social media outage, there's a whatever happening, it can still work because you are a leader within and you have that inner compass that is guiding you and leading you to see a problem, recognize it. You can make a plan. You can actually go through an action and then have an accomplishment on the other side, even if that accomplishment is failure, because failure is just a form of accomplishment, right? It tells you what not to do and what to do later. Yeah. And so really having this generational effective change on your family going forward. Oh, I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. And I think about when I had kids. Yeah. I mean, I learned how to breathe in a class and how to change a diaper, but I never learned, what to do when they're breaking down and crying and they don't want to talk to you or they don't want to listen to you. Right. That's not a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even do the Lamaze class. So, that I've actually given birth 4 times and never gone through a Lamaze class. And I'm like, probably should do that at some point. But you're right. Like, we learn how to give birth, and that's where the learning kind of ends, unless you take it upon yourself to read some books. And then again, there's so much different information out there. And you're talking about the generational things. I remember seeing probably on an Instagram post or something that what you do is affects 7 generations. So, all the healing that I've done, all of the generational healing that I've done is back from 7 generations from now, is basically what that's saying. And what I'm doing now is going to affect the next 7. And it's like, that's really scary and really powerful and really cool at the same time, depending on your perspective of it.
Yeah, depending on what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it's like, this is a fun example. I call these like the silent cycles. So, my dad growing up, when he would spill something on himself, he would, and to this day, he still does it. He'll hit whatever's in front of him and he'll say, dang it, because he spilled, right? And so like 3 days in a row, I spilled something on myself while I was in the car. But on the 3rd day, my son says, why do you get mad when you spill on yourself? And I'm like, I don't know, because Grandpa did. It was like, it never crossed my mind that I was doing it, because it's this silent cycle. Like, the cycles that we talk about breaking are alcoholism or abuse and neglect and things like that, like these huge things that we're really aware of. Yeah. But there's a lot of silent cycles that we learn, and that's just one example of it. And then the other day I spilled something on myself. I spill on myself a lot.
Okay.
Apparently, like, that's the lesson I'm learning from this story. But I spilled on myself, and instead of, dang it, it was just because it was shocking. And it stuck in my head because my son again was with me, and he goes, what? And I said, oh, I spilled. And I'm like, oh, that's a different reaction than 4 years ago or 5 years ago when he asked me why I was getting mad. So it's, anyway, but
it was a process, right?
Yeah. And I'm sure his dad did that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. You can't just turn it off and be like, oh, I just won't be mad today. Right. It's that realization, recognizing the problem, going through some action steps. You probably for a while were like, oh, I don't have to be angry when this happens. And let me try something new next time. Right.
The thing that I'm working on right now is like, how come I get mad when I get hurt? That's what's popping up for me in this moment. Just like, my dog loves to go crazy and run around the house. Just something, he gets a bug up his rear and start just streaking around the house. And it's hilarious to watch until his very sharp claws go across my foot. And I'm mad. And I'm like, but why am I mad? Like, why is that the reaction? Yeah. And, maybe in 3 or 4 podcasts, I'll have an answer to that question. But
There you go. There you go. For me, it's my head. I can hit anything, but if I hit my head, it's like an immediate trigger for me. I'm like, what happened in my childhood or what have you? I had some head injuries. I don't know what it is, but if I hit my head, everyone knows, oh, mom's not good for a second.
Right. And the answer to the question of when did that start is going to be in my childhood. Like 99.9% of the time, the answer to that question is when I was a kid.
Right. Exactly. And that's that core belief. So the 65-70 is truly the foundation for the rest of the life or rest of anyone's life. Because of that, anytime you ask someone, well, when I was a kid, this happened. When I was a kid, this happened. And whether it's happy or sad, and unfortunately in our psychology, in our brains, we remember negative more than we remember positive. I was just having this talk with one of my daughters yesterday. I said, if someone comes up to you and punches you and then hugs you, what are you going to remember the next day when you see that person? I promise you, you're not going to remember that great old hug, right? No. You're like, that's the one that punched me, right? And so it just is the way it is. And we remember those. So we have to actively seek joy. We have to choose joy in what we're doing and find it in our daily, which is a gratitude practice, right?
I was going to say that's the easiest way. That's the easiest way to shift your mind is start with 3 things that you're grateful for, and don't be general. Like, I'm grateful for my family and I'm grateful for my house. And what are you grateful for in the house? Like, what are you grateful for about your family? And because it just trains your brain into looking for the things to be grateful for. And that's why you could be having a really good morning and stub your toe, and now the rest of the day sucks. Because you stubbed your toe and that turned on the light switch of, negative times, let's look for all the things that are negative. But if in that moment or a few minutes later when the pain stops, you think, I'm so grateful for the couch that I just stubbed my toe on. It'll be you'll be able to rewire the brain back. Oh yeah.
So good. So good.
So this is a funny question that I've never asked anybody before, but if we were going to have a parenting test.
Okay.
If we were going to require that parents get a license to become a parent, what would you say should be on that test?
Oh, goodness. For me, I stand 100% on the platform of self-led discipline, meaning that you learn how to recognize issues and have a plan, move forward and have an accomplishment. But that can be and is applied to internal. If you stub your toe and you are angry about that, then you recognize that you're angry, right? And you have a plan. You're like, you know what? Maybe next time I'm not going to, but right now I'm going to sit on this couch and I'm going to take some deep breaths and then I'm going to be okay. Right. 2, financial issues, 2, wellness issues. Our family has literally been down the gamut of everything. I started my entire my entire family life and leadership coaching because of a severe wellness issue that happened in our family. My husband was taken in 2008 into the hospital in ICU because they said he was in cardiac failure at 32 years old. And I was like, no, we're not going to do this. And we had to start coming up with new plans, trying them, seeing what the accomplishment was, trying again, seeing what the accomplishment was. And so we've been through that in school and homeschooling. Everyone's been through COVID and all of the pressures that go through that, right? And so for me, if I were to give a class, which I do in my life and leadership coaching, it is all about making sure you know what you want, making sure you know how to get it, and then actually implementing it to make sure it gets done.
So I'm sorry, the dog just scared the life out of me.
It's okay.
I'm like listening intently to you, and I'm trying to think like, do I edit that out? I don't want to scare people to the point where they like drive off the road, but you were
That was so funny. Did he step on your foot though? Is the foot okay?
No,
Are you angry?
He just, I think he was barking at my son because I didn't look, but I think my son was pulling paper out of the printer because he likes to draw. And so he'll just go into the printer and pull stuff out. But why that made the dog bark, I have no idea. Now he's, under my chair, like trying to cuddle up to me.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh my word.
I'm not mad. It scared me.
Well, good. Well, good.
Anyway, so is there a piece of advice that you want to give to our moms listening?
Yeah, I mean, going along with what your podcast is all about and why these moms are listening to you, I just want to reiterate that there is no perfect parent. There is no perfect way to parent. You just need to keep trying and accomplishing and trying and accomplishing. And sometimes those are failures, and failures are good.
Mm-hmm.
Failures will teach you what to try next time. And I never want any parent to feel that pressure of I'm not good enough, because frankly, if you're trying, then you're good enough. You are exactly who that little person, or not so little person, depending on how old they are, you're exactly who they need.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the capacity to show up and be that person that knows them better than anyone else in this world and helps them go out there and conquer the world in their special and unique way, with this inner compass that you are giving them and the platform that they'll be standing on. So you got it. You just need to keep moving forward and always know that you can keep moving forward.
Yeah. I think the biggest failure in our society is that we look at failure as failure.
Right.
As negative. We look at failure like it's a period.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not. It's like the most successful people in the world look at their failures, air quotes for people that aren't watching, but like they look at these failures and they learn from the failure. And if we apply that to every aspect of our life, there's something that's freeing in that, because we typically look at these things that are not, that didn't go the way that we wanted or expected. And then we label those as failures.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these things we hold on to, especially like we look at our childhood and we're like, well, that's not the way it should have been. But I remember when I first started going through coaching and I was talking about things that I didn't like about my childhood. And my coach said, well, if you had a choice between you going through it and your son going through it, what would you choose? And it's like, well, obviously I would go through it 100 times over to protect him from that. And it's like, well, what if that was the purpose of you going through it?
Yeah.
And so if we look at these things that we do, air quotes, wrong, it's like there's situations where we don't know what we're doing.
Many of those.
Most of them, especially when it comes to parenting, like, my favorite story is when my son was like 16 months old, and there was this toy that was a elephant, but it made choo-choo sounds, and he was obsessed with trains. And so it was this train elephant. It had little cars that went behind it, but the train elephant was going along on the table, and it fell off the table, and he lost his ever-loving mind. And I just looked at this 16-month-old kid and I was like, I don't understand.
I don't know what to do with this.
Back on the table. Like, why are we melting down right now? I don't understand. About like 3 years later, I looked back at that thing and I was like, I know exactly what happened. The table looked like a track, and he wanted the choo-choo train, the choo-choo elephant, to go around the track. But it
Oh.
on the track, because it wasn't a track, it fell on the table. And he didn't understand why. And he was mad and he couldn't communicate that the other way. But it's like, I didn't know that then. It was hindsight that made me realize what had happened. And we, in the moment, most of the time we don't know what's going on, but that's why we have friends. That's why we have community. That's why we have parents of our own. That's why we have books. So we can do some research about why is this kid falling, melting down over the train falling down, right? Yeah. And I went to my sister, and my sister had an explanation, and we went down that path, and it ended up being part of it. And so it's like, that's why the community aspect is so important. So I just made like 42 different points, but
at least
they were all super profound, and you should take notes. Is there a book that's been really impactful in your personal development journey?
Oh my goodness. I am definitely a reader. And so I've read so many books. In the background, there is bookshelves right over there. And so I am a huge fan and reader of Brene Brown. And so I love everything that she's done. Right now, I am reading Dare to Lead, and I'm almost done with that one. But I worked under Brene for about 1.5 years. I learned so much working under her, and just learning about myself mostly. And to your point, when I learned more about myself, I could get out there and I could teach better. I could do better. I could serve better. I could be a better wife and a better mom, all of that when I was learning more about myself. So right now, since it's the one right in front of me, that is what I'm going to say. Dare to Lead, Brene Brown.
Yeah, everything that you just said, like I couldn't repeat it, but it was like, like being a better, what did you say? A better wife, a better mom, a better leader, like
servant. Yeah.
Servant who doesn't want to be all of those things. Like it's incredible. Where can our listeners find you?
You can find everything at nellieharden.com. So that's with an IE. Everyone tries to put a Y on me. I'm not Nellie Olson. So Nellie, NellieHarden. So yeah, nellieharden.com. You can find everything there. The podcast, I have a boot camp that is out there called Unlock Their Inner Leader. And I have my coaching programs, and then even a discipline hacker that people can find right there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and pouring into our listeners and everything. Yeah. I love these.
Oh, you are so welcome. This was a good conversation. Thank you so much for having me. And remember, moms out there, you just don't need to be perfect.
And hence the name.
Yes. I love it.
So we'll have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you next week. And until then, keep healing. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's AlysiaLyons.com. See you next time.